Do do do, theme song. Do do do, I'm broke so this is my theme song. Do do do, just imagine this is an awesome theme song. Do do, theme song. Left of the box. Hello, welcome to Left of the Box. Bonjour, bienvenue. I'm Sandy. I don't know what that was. Welcome everyone to this Monday afternoon, evening. More evening-ish. I'm starting at 6, which used to be my regular time, but then I wanted to start earlier so I could end earlier. But I was busy. In fact, I was so busy, we're going to have a bit of an experimental stream today. So far in the SandBox, we have Atticus Among Us, Jet, Paige Larson, and the Wild West. Welcome, everyone. Please give me that thumbs up. Let me know that my audio and visual is okay, because the streams where I scramble to get things done, I usually miss something important, like, actually hitting the stream button. That sort of thing. So if I could get a thumbs up, just you are my unofficial producers, I'd super appreciate it. But I'm not expecting a stampede of people because, I am competing with the Young Turks right now at 6 p.m. I've got a hot take about Jank being banned that I'll save for later. I think I've got a hot take about it that I don't think anyone else has said. But I'll say it. Stay tuned. Okay, I'm getting some thumbs up that audio is good. Okay, great. I do have a fair bit of news to get covered today. Yesterday, I was a little bit unwinding. I had a vending market on Saturday. Didn't go so well. I didn't cover the cost of the table. Nope, did not sell enough to cover the cost of the table. And so now I'm getting super stressed about the next vending market on Saturday. Oh, there'll be thousands of people there at least. So I have a better chance of covering the cost of the table. But I'm still scrambling to get so many things done. And I was busy painting the ornaments today. It's these ones. Let's see. So you have gay and lesbian ones. So this is the lesbian, and this is the gay. Now I only did 5 gay ones because gay men don't tend to, show off their pride flag, but I have seen the lesbian flag around. I also have, after this stream, I need to finish the bisexual ones that I've done. I have 2 of the colors down. I just need to put the strip in the middle of the purple. And then I'll have those done as well. Oh. And then tomorrow, I'm going to be starting to paint a bunch. Like, basically, the base coat is going to be red. That will be easy and not to take too much time. But then I'll be using acrylic markers to put on pronouns. So those ones should not take me as long to do. And then, if I have more time, I will do more of the general pride flag. But I have all of these already. So this one is the intersex. And then this is the pride. Got the non-binary in here as well. Ooh. And then, over here, got the pansexual, trans, ace. And I need to figure out a better way of doing this because they get tangled doing this the way that I have them. but I don't know a better way of transporting them yet. Oh. A couple came off. So I'm only charging $5 for these. They're hand painted. And then $10 to put their name on while they're waiting type thing. So not an extra $10. It would be like $10 total. So they can pay $5 as is or $10 to have their name added, which will look something like this. Oh, hello, Reference Frame. Also, welcome to the SandBox. And Silas, welcome. Did I actually say hi to you yet, Jet? Hello. Hello, Rusty. Let's see. Oh, looks like a lot more people have jumped into the SandBox. That's good. Paige Larson saying about time Jank faces consequences, even if it's for speaking against Israel. That's not what I do have a hot take. That's not it. That's not it. Oh, people complimenting my my ornaments. Rusty, when did Sandy mention the market thing? I do mention them during my streams, but unless you're paying attention to the entire stream the entire time, you might miss it. But I am doing some vending markets, especially for Pride Month and whatnot, and fingers crossed that I can actually pay off the cost of the table. The last one that I did on Saturday, not so much, so I needed Sunday to unwind. Same thing is going to happen this weekend. So the vending market's going to be on Saturday. Sunday is just going to be a write-off. I'm just going to crash. So the live stream I'll be doing will probably be on Monday. And the following weekend, yeah, same thing. 3 vending markets 3 weekends in a row because, yeah, it's going to be a thing. But I'm super stressed about it. Woke up super early just so I could get started work on them. And I was so focused on getting a big batch done today, which I'm still not technically done. I got all my tabs because, you know, I started sorting them yesterday. So I got all the tabs. I've arranged all the tabs. But here's the thing. I haven't pre-watched any of the videos. So normally I will pre-watch the videos to make sure that they actually are something I want to comment on, and that, you know, maybe I don't have 2 videos of the exact same things that overlap. So all of you and me, we're going to be discovering together what these videos actually contain. Because I forgot to do that when I was arranging them. Yeah, I just did out of my mind. But you know, I have them all lined up based on the content of the comments that are about the video. So I'm hoping that they are what I think they are. But we will find out together. Oh. Wild West, I don't know why it's so hard to find markets in my city. I have a bunch of jewelry to sell. There's a circuit you gotta get into. I know there's a lot more vending markets. I don't know all of them in my area. And it's a matter of, can you cover the cost? Because getting a table at these events are over $100. So I think this upcoming one at Pride, it's going to be the Pride Festival that I'm having the table at. If I fall flat there and sell almost nothing, I think that's pretty much the world saying to me I should give up on the vending market thing. Because, you know, I've added new inventory and stuff. I have a bunch of old inventory that just isn't selling, and now I don't know what to do with, and I'm worried that I'm just going to have a whole bunch of more inventory. But yeah, Rusty saying I thought gay was a general term for men and women. It can be. Kind of like how you say, hey guys. That can be men and women, but also just men. Gay can apply to men and women, but women also have lesbian, whereas gay men are just gay men. And they have different flags. But the gay men don't tend to show their flag all that much, so I didn't do too many of those. Just like the intersex ones, I didn't do too many of them because there'd have to be that many intersex people there that are interested in buying. So. But the thing is that I could always do commission orders. So if there's a flag that somebody wants that I don't have, I can do. Oh. But yeah, I wish flea markets were still a thing too, the Wild West. There is like a farmer's market around here that has like craft sections and stuff too. That one you have to, I think, lease for a month or something. And that, again, this upcoming festival will really indicate to me if I have a chance of selling anything. And the not ironic thing, the weird thing is, I guess it's not weird either. The thing is, the only reason why I started this a year ago was because I published my books and I wanted to get into a vending market just to sell my books. And I figured, while I'm there, I might as well sell some of my art. And so I started building up inventory of different types of art that I could sell there, and on and on and on. So all of this is because I published my books. That's it. That's it. That's why I'm in this mess. I haven't come close to paying off the initial cost because maintaining an inventory, it's not that difficult to do. And it's not that, it doesn't hit as hard cost-wise because, you're just replacing some things here and there. The initial build of the inventory, though, that hurts. That hurts. I could have bought a printer for the amount of printing I did of my hidden message art and whatnot, but hindsight is what it is. I didn't know how many I was going to be printing off initially and all that sort of stuff. So fingers crossed that this market, I at least cover the cost of everything. Oh, the Wild West wants a ace leaf. There we go. Do this. Here we go. You probably hear it when I do that. One of these days, I'm gonna have better setup. There we go. There. Thank you so much, the True Democratic North, for the $2 super chat. Really appreciate it. No comment or anything in it, just a heart, and I super appreciate that. Every little bit helps. And welcome to the SandBox. I hope I didn't miss saying hi to anyone. Paige is wondering if we're going to watch the Candace and Anna conversation. I will be watching it to see if there's any content I need for my super duper ultra long TYT essays. But I will be watching it at 2x speed. And I won't be watching it this week because I haven't been able to work on the TYT essays because these vending markets have really consumed me. It's the only thing I do from when I wake up to when I go to bed. I hate, like, eating takes too much time and it gets super frustrating. So, yeah. But yeah, I will probably be watching it. Rusty, I believe there is a flag for cisgender. There is one for allies, at least. And so allies would be people who are cisgendered and straight. So there is a flag for allies. Oh. Hello, John McDropout. Tabling is so exhausting. I know what you're going through. Hello, Tom Trusk. The thing is that I do like vending markets. Like, I like the atmosphere and stuff. I usually volunteer at them for other charity organizations and stuff like that. And I like going to them. So, uh, if this actually worked and I could go to vending markets on a regular basis and make enough to cover the cost of the table and then a little something, I'd be happy. It's not like I would need like a massive amount of money made at these things because I enjoy the atmosphere. Oh. Little Wild West says black and white for straight. Hello, Big Jerry. But yeah, I still have a lot to go through. But I figure I might as well just move these streams to Monday for the next few weeks because I don't want to skip a week. Well, God, my brain. YouTube algorithms don't like it when you skip weeks. So I want to do that. And, there's always so much news that happens in any given week that trying to get caught up, or it's not even caught up, it's just there are some stories I think are important to cover that might get missed and get lost in the noise and all that sort of stuff. That said, I still did kind of cut it down from what I would normally have. I still have my regular 4 dockets, but I try to really cut out excess stuff. And I'm not talking about, when I'm talking about international stuff, I'm actually not going to be talking about Lebanon or anything of that sort, even though very important news stories happening there. And partly because if you watch Democracy Now!, The Majority Report, or other leftist YouTube channels, you'll know what's happening. You'll see the news. You'll be up to date with everything that's happening. So I'm trying to find things that, again, from the Canadian perspective, stories, as well as things that might have fallen through the cracks of other channels and whatnot. So some stories, yes, it's important to cover. I don't need to. There's lots of coverage out there from other channels, and that's why it's good to have a variety of different people covering all this news, because that way other things don't get missed. John McDropout, sometimes when you're at your table finding time to pee, it's hard enough, much less eating. So if you have to help, it can be grueling, like marathons every day. Yeah, I'm worried about not having enough help this Saturday because there will be thousands of people at that market. And especially if I'm going to be personalizing things like these ornaments on the spot, I'm desperately going to need help. But I'm trying to ask a bunch of people I know to see, at a bare minimum, I absolutely need help setting up and tearing down. Because to drop off everything on my spot, then drive my car away so that I can park, and then come back, I need somebody at least standing there watching the stuff. Also, they get the tent up and the displays up and stuff. That's really a 2-person job. Normally, if it's just the tent, there's going to be neighboring vendors that are friendly and helpful, and they help you out. At least here in Canada, that's been my experience. Yeah, I'll take some food with me to eat. But for an event like that, I won't get hungry during it because I'll just be so focused on everything. The same with my bladder functions might not be working properly because I'm so focused on things that I might have to force myself to go to the washroom because I might forget. Atticus among us, maybe security. There are volunteers at the event that might do it, but it always depends if they're busy with stuff. Anyway, why don't we get into the news? I do kind of want to hammer through it because I still, like I said, I want to finish the bisexual leaves today, as well as I still need to do chores, clean the cat's litter bins and things of that sort, then eat dinner. So I still have all of that to do tonight. So we should probably just hop into it. But thank you everyone for coming out. Please like and share the stream. This is not my normal streaming time, so letting other people know that this is happening is super helpful. And I do kind of want to wrap up. I don't want this to be a 5-hour long live stream. I don't even want it to be 4 hours, 3 hours. I could handle 3 hours. So I might not actually get to everything because I'm pooped. I am pooped. But we'll start with international news. So for people who are just tuning in now, this is going to be a bit of an experiment. Super dry in here. Normally I remember to pre-watch the videos to make sure that they're videos I want to include. Totally forgot to do that today. So I have all the videos in here. I have not seen them yet. So going to be hit and miss how relevant they are, and you're going to get my on the spot reaction because I hadn't seen these before. But with all that said, content warning with the first one in particular, really troubling story from the flotilla about one of the activists talking about how she was raped. So, yeah, content warning with that one. And this is from Drop Site News. So, where's my, there we go. So, yeah, Drop Site News. Where's the, I'll need that for later. Okay. So, Juliette Lamont, an Australian documentary filmmaker and Gaza flotilla activist, speaks to Double Down News about being raped by Israeli soldiers after the aid vessel she was aboard was intercepted earlier this month. Lamont says soldiers pulled down her trousers and underwear and that an Israeli soldier forcibly penetrated her vagina while she was in detention. She was among more than 450 activists seized when Israeli forces intercepted the Globosamud flotilla in international waters. Organizers say at least 15 detainees reported sexual assaults or rape when in Israeli custody. Full interview is linked below. I think this is just a clip, which we were going to watch. So I'm going to speed it up a bit because it is a bit over 4 minutes long. Like I said, I haven't pre-watched this, so content warning. This is going to be a troubling clip to watch, most likely.
270 nautical miles from Gaza. So we were intercepted in international waters. But at the time, because we saw, what looked like to be sort of 17-year-olds in balaclavas in broad daylight, it wasn't quite.
Let me know how the audio is. It looks like it's a bit low. I can adjust that, I think, a little bit. No, not by doing that, but by doing this. No, not by doing that. Where is the, there should be properties. Properties, no, cancel. There should be advanced properties somewhere. Anyway, let me know if the audio was okay on that. If not, I can try to boost it a bit more somehow.
As scary initially. And they drove the boat like they stole it, literally. I think maybe it was a 35-minute journey that was really fast with guns in our faces. And then we arrived at the, monumental, monstrous prison ship that a lot of people have talked about. And then that was the threshold of it becoming, a very, very frightening, fearing for your life situation. They knew my name when they dragged me onto the deck. I was cable tied. My ankles were shackled. They put so much water under my face. I had no ability to move. And every time I tried to get away from the water to stop sort of gurgling and drowning, they'd slap me again, stand on the back of my legs. I thought that was my number was up, and I'd only been on that boat for about 20 minutes. I thought that I was going to drown. And that was, that was the welcome to Israel.
And just, not that I need to point it out yet again, but this is something the brutality that they inflicted on these activists were done to people who the Israeli government knew they'd be letting go. That these people would get out there and tell the stories of what happened to them. And the Israeli soldiers still did this with absolute impunity. They know there's not going to be any consequences for what they did. And if this is what they're doing to Westerners, that, you know, they know they're going to let go and tell their stories and stuff like that, the utter horror, unbelievable horror of what they are putting the Palestinians through, that they have captured, just a sane person's mind can't come up with all the stuff they're doing. Like, even if we go back to the story of how they have trained dogs to assault people, that's not something a normal brain comes up with. That's not something I would have ever conceived of on my own, because I'm not a brutal sadistic fuck like that. Like, absolutely, when the stories come out about what happened to the Palestinians, like all of the stories, I think our consciousnesses will have a hard time accepting that the world allowed this to happen.
Because that's exactly what they said when I got on the boat. Welcome to Israel. You're going to really enjoy this, is what they said. Other bodies would be thrown onto me. It was sort of like sardined, and you could feel other people kind of, you know, in different, different levels of anguish, lots of screams, lots of thudding. Then I was dragged sort of along a corridor. They looked at my passport. They recognized that I'd been there before, and they told me that he had an American accent, and he said, "I want to kill someone today, and it potentially might be you." And then I was dragged towards what we sort of ended up.
Any foreign soldiers going over there to commit atrocities and genocide need to be held accountable by their countries. We're talking Canadian, American, British. We know that they're going over there and doing these things. They should be, when they come back to their countries, they should be charged with war crimes, full stop. Like, if somebody, there was those teenage girls that went over to be ISIS brides or something like that, and they got charged and all that sort of stuff. No, they should absolutely be held accountable for participating in these atrocities.
Calling a like a torture tunnel. It's a shipping container that, you know, kind of had an entrance to it where you could vaguely see the silhouette of 5 soldiers inside, and I was pushed inside that space. I was slapped and kicked. I was sexually assaulted. They threw me on the ground. They broke my coccyx, kicked me in the back. And the strangest thing, and the thing that I remember the most is not the blows, and it was not the sort of like the internal sexual assault. It was this really, really big man who was pulling at my hair like a child, like a boy would in a playground, you know, doing it to a girl that he didn't really understand. You know, it was like, it was really infantile and puerile.
Juliet, I apologise for being intrusive here, but when you say that you were sexually assaulted, it's important. This, what exactly did they do?
So they wrenched my trousers and my underwear down, and it felt like that I was inserted with a hand. It wasn't a gun. I found out later that other people had guns inserted inside them. You know, I don't think that it was a penis, but there was so much going on. But I was vaginally raped by one of the male soldiers. As I was, you know, your head's down. They're putting you in a stress position, so your head's down, and your sort of posterior is very sort of available to be, you know, dealt with, and your hands are behind your back, and your ankles are shackled. So, yeah, it's while you're being sort of jostled, hit, sworn at in the dark. I mean, it's a really discombobulating, horrific experience. Then a door was opened, and I was thrown out into an open kind of area where I could see probably maybe about 60 people on the deck of that boat. And my daughter, Isla, who was 25, ran up to me. My mouth was bleeding. They'd punched me in the face. And yeah, I was just sort of surrounded by love. And I was just really, yeah, it was really nice to see that my daughter was all right. And we talked about, you know, how much violence. And
Absolutely brutal. These people need to be held accountable for what they've done, what they're doing. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If we don't see accountability in this, then the world is lost. There is no global order. You know, we're in the dark ages. Might makes right. Evil fucks get to do whatever they want because, you know, the so-called good forces out there do nothing to stop it. You know, we're heading to a new dark age. But here we have from CTV News, most painful moment of my life. Here's what Canadians say happened to them under Israeli captivity. Again, I haven't pre-watched this or read the article so much yet because I was so busy today that I didn't get around to it. So we're going to be learning about this together.
I still have the bruises and cuts here.
These are the scars Shahid Mahmoud carries with him after being taken captive by Israeli soldiers less than a week ago.
The hands are tightly tied with those zip ties, and they do it on purpose.
Still wearing his assigned prison uniform, now marked to make it his own. He can vividly recall the harrowing things he claims he saw and heard while detained by Israeli forces for 3 days.
They're painful screams. That is the most painful moments of my life I've ever witnessed.
Flotilla organizers claim those who were taken captive experienced sexual violence, including humiliating strip searches, sexual taunting, groping, and pulling of genitals, and multiple accounts of rape.
It's a horrific ordeal.
The Belleville, Ontario resident, one of 12 Canadians and more than 400 people from dozens of countries who took to the seas as part of the global Sumud flotilla trying to carry aid to Gaza before Israeli forces captured them last week. Montreal's Ihab Lotayev arriving home Saturday night after he says Israeli soldiers beat him for days, one taking it even further.
He stabbed me between the two fingers. You can see some of the stitches here.
The Foreign Affairs Minister says Canada unequivocally condemns the grave mistreatment of Canadians in Israel. Israel has been steadfast.
What are you going to do about it? You condemn it, but what are you going to do about it?
In denying those claims.
This is the diggy.
But for Mahmoud and hundreds of others, their experience is undeniable.
I was insulted, dehumanized. I was dragged around. Good to see you.
Now back home to friends and family.
Free.
Back to fighting for a cause he believes in, this time from home, knowing he'd return to the Mediterranean Sea in a heartbeat if the chance came up again. Kamal Karamali, CTV News, Belleville.
These activists, you know, they're heroes. They do this knowing they're going to get mistreated by the Israeli soldiers. But the message, what they're trying to do, just the chance of breaking through and giving such, you know, small amount of aid to people in dire need of it. You know, these are people who have lived their values in a way very few in this world do. To really confront, you know, that moment of what are you willing to put on the line? Let's see. So a day after returning home from what Shahid Mahmoud describes as the most terrifying experience of his life, the software engineer from Belleville, Ontario, continues to wear his Israeli prison uniform in an attempt to make it his own. The gray sweater and sweatpants set now has the words Free Gaza emblazoned across the front next to Hebrew text. So talking about the scars that he had from the zip ties, talking about the bruises and the cuts, talking about how he was punched and while being patted down in strip search. He says, I hear crying, their screams, I hear punching and pounding, said Mahmoud while he was waiting for other members from the flotilla to be brought to a shipping container that served as a makeshift prison. I hear them bouncing people on the floor, the container walls, bumping them around, and their painful screams. That is the most painful moment of my life that I have ever witnessed. And one by one, we hear those screams and we just stand in horror waiting for the next person to come and see how painful it might look, he added. The person they throw in is either limping or bruised on the face and has something else broken. Mahmoud said they were first met with Israeli forces in international waters. Soldiers shot at their boat to make them stop. When they first boarded, so the welcoming is a beating, Mahmoud said. They beat you with kicking and butts of their guns and pounding and throwing you on the floor against the walls of the containers. And then they throw you in the middle of the shipping containers open area. It was full of about 100 people, but it's like the container that you see on the trucks. It's not huge. It cannot fit 100 people unless they're all standing up, he added. There was no room to sit down, and there were people who were injured. There were people who couldn't stand. They were just leaning against other people, and there was no water. That was the biggest concern. Allegations of abuse. So talking about the widespread stories coming out from the activists of various forms of sexual violence, including multiple accounts of rapes. Prime Minister Mark Carney called it abominable treatment of the flotilla members and unacceptable. We'll get to a comment that he made. And what Anita Anand said. So, yeah. So Samira, independent Palestinian journalist here, says Mark Carney met today with the man who on October 12th, 2023 said, "It's an entire nation out there that is responsible. It's not true. This rhetoric about civilians were not aware, not involved." What a horror of complicity Canada has become in Israel's genocide of Gaza. And she's quote tweeting a post from the Prime Minister who says, "Today I met with the President of Israel, Isaac Herzog. I reaffirmed that the scandalous treatment inflicted on civilians aboard the flotilla en route to Gaza was unacceptable and that respect for human dignity must be ensured everywhere at all times." Okay. So, that didn't happen. It hasn't happened before. It didn't happen this time. So, Carney, what you gonna do? You gonna do anything about it? I stressed that it was imperative to diffuse tensions in the Middle East and the importance of restoring genuine dialogue among all parties. The pursuit of peace and stability in the region must remain the clear and shared objective of all concerned parties. So the way that you get stability and peace is you get Israel to stop fucking doing genocides, to stop invading their neighboring countries. That's how you do it. This wishful thinking language that he's using is just such an abdication of the responsibility he has as a world leader. Canada is not, a small-time player in this. We're sending weapons. We're sending money. Canadian citizens are going over there to participate in this. There are things Canada could be doing that Israel would actually feel. Not these hollow words that he keeps on saying over and over again. Anita Anand, the Foreign Affairs Minister, she says, spoke this morning with Israeli Foreign Minister, I don't know how to say his name, Gideon, to raise Canada's serious concerns with Israel's mistreatment of Canadian participants in the flotilla. I raised that denying Canadian citizens access to consular services while they were detained violates the Vienna Convention and must never happen again. It's already happened before this, plenty of times. Or there were the times that they've murdered Canadian citizens. But don't you do it again, finger wag. Canada is providing Israel authorities with evidence of this mistreatment. We have asked for and expected an independent investigation. And those responsible to be held to account. We also discussed the deplorable rise of anti-Semitism in Canada and the steps the government of Canada is taking to protect Canada's Jewish community from hate and violence. Do I have that in here? Oh yeah, I do. Okay. We'll talk more about, Israel's influence on our language laws here, but stop with the fucking finger wagging and actually do something. This won't stop it from happening again. Just saying it must never happen again. How exactly does this prevent it from happening again? And again and again. But you see, Gideon also tweeted about this conversation. Here he has, spoke with Canadian FM Anita Anand. I described the sole aim of the extremist anti-Israel flotilla activists, provocation at the service of Hamas. Were they having the same conversation? Were they talking to each other? Just look at what they did afterwards in Spain, Greece, and Austria. Israel will continue to act with full impunity with international law. Well, in full accordance with international law. Committing a genocide is not in accordance with international law and will not permit any branch of the lawful naval blockade on Gaza. I also highlighted the horrific anti-Semitic wave in Canada, an average of 19 incidences a day. How many Palestinians are you killing each day? Also, what qualifies saying from the river to the sea, that's not anti-Semitic. Calling out Israel, not Jewish people, but calling out Israel for the atrocities it's committing is not anti-Semitic. Because as we'll get to later on with Hassan Piker, there is a huge difference between what the state of Israel is doing and Jewish people. Anti-Semitism is bad and must be called out when it happens. Israel does not represent all Jewish people. Not all Jewish people are Zionists. Not all Zionists are Jewish people. There is a massive separation there that has to happen. When we criticize this, we're criticizing the government of Israel. Something they seem to have issues with, the government of Israel seems to have a hard time distinguishing, Hamas militants from civilians, Palestinians. So they just kind of lump them all together. But they don't call that Islamophobic. Nope, not at all, not at all. But now it's like, oh, the Canadian government must take steps against anti-Semitic incitement and attacks. They might also be referring to, there was an effigy of Ben Gvir that was burned, and they're saying, oh, they're burning a Jewish person, so it's anti-Semitic. It's like, no, they were burning a monster. Rachel Gilmore did a video on it. I decided not to cover that one because it's all the same old of how they like to play victim and conflate, us targeting the government of Israel and their policies with Jewish people. That is anti-Semitic. But yeah, it doesn't really feel like they had a very similar conversation because, talking about the mistreatment of Canadian participants in the flotilla here, and this guy saying, well, they were all just, in service of Hamas. So what are we doing? What could we do? Well, we could stop by sending them. We could start by stopping to send tens of millions of dollars worth of weapons to them. So this is from the Maple. Canada exported 14.6 million of military goods to Israel in 2025. There was that whole thing back when Justin Trudeau was prime minister that they weren't sending weapons to Israel anymore. Well, That was never the case, and it apparently still is not the case. A total of 50 military export permits were utilized to sell goods to Israel in 2025. So, if you actually want to hold them accountable for the brutality they inflicted on Canadian citizens, start with this. Let's see, how long is this article? Okay, I actually get through the whole thing. It's not terribly long. Maple usually has like really long articles. So, Canada exported 14.6 million worth of military goods directly to Israel last year, according to a report published today by Global Affairs Canada. So before, we were still sending tens of millions of dollars worth of weapons, but they were doing it in a roundabout way, where they were sending them to the United States, knowing full well they would then be sent to Israel. Or they were saying that these are just defensive weapons, no offensive weapons, because, you know, there's a distinction somehow. That this bomb that they're going to use is for defense as opposed to offense. And so then we got the 50 military permits. The military goods were shipped despite the Liberal government stating that it paused approval of some new military export permits on January 8th, 2024, and suspended dozens of existing permits for goods that it believed could be used in Israel's genocide in Gaza. Under the Export and Import Permits Act, the Minister of Foreign Affairs is legally obliged not to authorize military export permits if there is a substantial risk the goods could be used to commit or facilitate serious violations of international humanitarian or human rights laws. You know, like genocide. The report states that 2 new military export permits to Israel were issued in 2025. The Maple revealed last year that these permits were for parts related to Israel's Iron Dome missile system, which allows Israel to inflict massive civilian casualties at a scale that dwarfs its own losses. The 2 permits were valued at $37.2 million. The report states that Israel remains on Canada's automatic firearms country control list, which allows exporters to sell such weapons and components to the listed countries. 7.2 million of the exported goods to Israel last year fell under an export category that covers electronic equipment, spacecraft, and components not specified elsewhere on the munitions list. 4.3 million of the exported goods fell under an export category that covers bombs, torpedoes, rockets, missiles, other explosive devices and charges and related equipment and accessories. Because, you know, you gotta bling out that bomb. And specially designed components, therefore. The total value of exported goods to Israel last year represents a slight decrease from 2024 when 18.9 million worth of goods were shipped. The largest non-U.S. destination of Canadian military goods in 2025 was Saudi Arabia, where 404 million worth of goods were sold. We gotta get out of the weapon selling business. Canada also shipped 10.4 million of military goods to the United Arab Emirates, UAE, which is accused of complicity in genocide in Sudan. Shocked that Canada would be selling weapons to a genocidal state, because, you know, in my last docket, we're going to be talking about how the genocide against First Nations here never actually stopped. So I can't say I'd be surprised that we're supporting other ones. And again, this is just a little twist of Canadian law that I find very, very ironic, is that we have hate speech laws here in Canada. I can't come on here and try to promote a genocide against, you know, moose herders or something of that sort. I can't say we should kill all moose herders, we should genocide them. I'm not allowed to do that. That is a hate crime. And so you're not allowed to promote, endorse, that sort of thing. But apparently, we can sell weapons to countries committing genocides. You're just not allowed to say that you endorse it out loud, but you can endorse it by sending weapons. Seems to be a loophole in that language law there. The report does not include Canadian-made military goods that are shipped to Israel via the United States, which are not tracked regulated by the federal government. So there could be tens of millions more. Last year, a report published by the Arms Embargo Now Coalition identified hundreds of shipments of Canadian-made F-35 fighter jet components, other aircraft parts, and explosives and flammable material to U.S. facilities that supply the Israeli military. The report also highlighted 433 shipments of Polish-made TNT routed through the port Sagway. A port in Quebec to the U.S. Army ammunition plant that makes bombs used by Israel in Gaza. The same coalition published another report last year that used shipping records and Israeli tax authority data to identify hundreds of direct shipments to Israel, including some that were categorized by Israeli government as part of weapons ammunition. The Liberal government voted down the NDP-sponsored motion last year calling on the government to close the U.S. export loophole that the basis that doing so might incur the wrath of the U.S. government and harm Canada economically. Yeah, because, Donald Trump is so stable that when you kiss his ass, he actually does like you and won't do anything against you or anything. As Mark Carney has learned, that is not the case. It doesn't matter how much you appease the orange dictator. He's never going to like you. He's always going to want more. GAC's latest export reports notes that 2 legal actions regarding Canada's authorizations of military exports to Israel were still underway as of December 31st, 2025. And now, here is another article from the Maple. Global Affairs Canada keeps Israel's anti-Semitism lobbying secret. How long is this article? Okay. So we regret to inform you that the records of your requests are all withheld. The government of Israel has been contacting the Mark Carney government regarding alleged anti-Semitism in Canada this year, but Global Affairs Canada, GAC, is keeping records of those communications secret. On March 17th, the Maple requested via the information copies of all correspondence sent by the Israeli government to Minister of Foreign Affairs Anita Nunn regarding alleged anti-Semitism in Canada. On April 24th, GAC told the Maple, "We regret to inform you that the records you requested are withheld." Are all withheld. The department cited the section of the Access to Information Act which allows federal government to exempt confidential documents sent by foreign states from public disclosure. Israeli government officials, meanwhile, have publicly complained about alleged anti-Semitism in Canada after members of the Carney government criticized Israel's brutalization of activists on board an aid flotilla bound for Gaza earlier this month. So, while Anita Nunn and Mark Carney were finger-wagging to Israel, they were finger-wagging to us, saying, how dare you allow some of your politicians to say what we did in brutalizing your citizens as bad. How dare you let that happen? Shouldn't have done that. No, Canada. Like, this is absolutely ridiculous. Like, we should not be, what's the word? Not appeasing. I think it begins with a C. Not compromising. Capitulating. We should not be capitulating to a genocidal state on what we can and cannot say here in this country. There is some issues around freedom of speech in this country that we'll get to because we'll be talking about how, Cenk and Hassan were banned from the UK. I can't say I'm shocked. And, it didn't get as much, I feel like it didn't get as much coverage when Canada was doing that exact same thing with other people, banning them from coming to Canada because they were outspoken about what the Israeli government is doing. Pretty much if I wasn't a Canadian citizen, I would not be allowed in Canada right now. The Maple asked GAC, the Israeli embassy, for information about the nature of Israel's correspondence with the Canadian government regarding alleged anti-Semitism and whether the Israeli government called for any specific policy changes in Canada. Gawk provided a generic statement that said the government of Canada strongly condemns the recent rise of anti-Semitic violence and hate speech that has taken place in Canada worldwide. The department did not answer the Maple's questions. No response from the Israeli embassy was received. On March 17th, the Israeli government launched a public relations campaign encouraging Canada to crack down on alleged anti-Semitism with particular focus on pro-Palestinian protests, because somehow being pro-Palestinian means you're anti-Semitic in their eyes. Israel's ambassador to Canada, Ido Moed, said certain freedoms should be limited to address the issue. Yes, we need to be taking away freedoms of you Canadians, because you're saying things that's making us, a foreign nation, feel uncomfortable. So we need to crack down on your ability for free speech. That's what we need to be doing. Well, they seem to be doing a good job of that when it comes to other countries and their freedom of speech. Like, just remember, this was happening a long time ago. You have the the anti-BDS laws that were happening down in the States, where if you wanted to do the boycott, divest, and sanction against Israel, you had to sign papers saying that you would not participate in it or support it. Because for a long time, the state of Israel has dictated some of the speech we're allowed to have in Canada, the United States, and the UK. And all these free speech warriors out there have kept their damn mouth shut about this. Moed did not say what freedoms he was referring to, and the Israeli consulate did not respond to questions from the Maple regarding ambassador's comments. His remarks came days after 3 synagogues in Toronto were shot at overnight. The Israel lobby has already succeeded in restricting some freedoms in Canada. Following pressure from Israel lobby, municipal governments in Canada introduced bubble zones law last year that restrict protests near places of worship, schools, and child care centers. The federal government similarly introduced legislation that would make it a crime to intimidate and obstruct people from accessing places of worship, as well as schools, community centers, and other places primarily used by identifiable groups. Or like when they decide to have auctions of stolen land in synagogues, they don't want you protesting the synagogue. So they designed these bubble laws to make sure you can't. When they're not protesting the synagogue, they're protesting what is happening in it when it comes to the illegal sale of stolen land. Again, can't say I'm shocked that Canada, is fine with selling off stolen land. Let's just say this country has a history. The law came after Palestinian solidarity activists protest synagogues that were used to host sales of real estate occupied Palestinian territory. In March, Ontario Premier Doug Ford unsuccessfully sought to obtain a court injunction to ban a pro-Palestine Al-Quds Day protest. A letter for the protest organizers said the attempt for the injunction was a politically motivated attack on our rights, so we were happy to vindicate those rights. So when these activists came back to their countries, there was a different response depending on which country they came back to. But the police in, which country was this? Oh, Spain. Well, they got involved. And they treated these activists, these humanitarian activists, far more harshly than they do treat people who choose to go over to Israel and participate in these war crimes. So Francesca Albanese says, shame on the Basque police for brutalizing flotilla members returning home after being abducted, unlawfully detained, and ill-treated by Israel. Many of those responsible are held accountable. May those responsible be held accountable. We must resist the Israelization of our societies. I wouldn't call it an Israeliation. It's just Western colonialism. It's already here. It's just, you know, we're getting different influences. And so Thiago says, and I believe he was on the flotilla, says, outrageous in front of their families. The entire Basque press, our flotilla volunteers were attacked by airport police in Bilbao, in Spain upon returning to their home country. These are people who weren't doing anything. They weren't like doing anything that would be deserving of this type of treatment. What's the word? They weren't doing anything to, there's a word. Attract? No, not attract that attention. To oh fuck, there's a word. They weren't doing anything that would justify this type of behavior from the police. They were just showing up. Some of them were probably saying, you know, free Palestine, being glad to be home, calling out to friends and family, but nothing they did justified the police's reaction to them and brutality. Well, fortunately, there was a little bit of a different response here in Canada. So Nora says another participant from the Canadian Global Sumud Flotilla, Danielle Maria, has arrived in Toronto after Israel detained and tortured activists. Look at the crowd at the Pearson Airport in Toronto. So we still are allowed to do this for now. When you see things like this, be forewarned. That's coming here. Because we tend to export all of our worst colonial behaviors. Just like I said, I wasn't surprised when Hassan and Jank were banned from going to the UK. After all, Canada has banned plenty of people from coming here because they have criticized Israel. Just think of Kneecap, for instance.
They came out the other doors.
And then earlier this week, there was a bit of an incident, and I agree with Terrell here. Fuck decorum. We need more of this. Whenever these politicians are out in public, they need to be made uncomfortable. They need to be called out for their role in this genocide. I don't care how uncomfortable it makes people, they need to be called out. They shouldn't be allowed to get away with their complicity and their participation in what Israel is doing. And so here, this person tweets out, Canadian politician Chrystia Freeland, Canada's former Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister, was confronted during an event in Toronto. Thousands murdered because of you. How many children have you orphaned? I don't need to read that because we'll hear it. Like, just the fact that she can go on like book tour and live her life like nothing happened. I don't know if it was a book. Oh, yeah, book deal. They just go on, you know, after they've participated with this, after they've helped Israel slaughter hundreds of thousands of people. They just go on with their life. Like they don't have blood on their hands. They just keep on going on, doing their thing. Never thinking, never regretting, never thinking. They just, the lack of soul. Like you need whatever the opposite of us, like there's having a soul, there's having no soul, but then there has to be something else that is like a negative soul. You need to have like a negative soul to be able to just kind of brush your hands of this and move on with your life. And I'm glad that some people are holding them accountable. Whenever Justin Trudeau is out and about, he needs this type of reaction. Mark Carney, Anita Anand, any of your liberal MPs will do at this point because they're all complicit.
Thousands murdered because of you. How many children have you orphaned? You monster. You Zionist Nazi dog. And I see you up there, Jesse. You're disgusting. You're disgusting. You're a monster. What do you have to say for yourself, you animal? You disgusting animal. You're a fucking Nazi, Victor Freeland. You're
Hell yeah.
the butcher of Gaza. Those souls will haunt you for the rest of your life. You animal. And you go around with a book.
Oh, here we have. You see that up there? Canada Land. Yeah, they used to be a semi-respectable publication here in Canada until it turned out that the owner was absolute raging fucking Zionist. And I covered him, I think, last week when he was doing a conference with Ben Shapiro. Yeah. So I can't say I'm shocked that Chrystia Freeland is going on, you know, some sort of book tour related to Canada Land and having Canada Land promote her.
Deal? You making money off of genocide? You disgusting dog! You disgusting animal! Who do you think you are? Robbing people of their money, of taxpayer money, to fund Nazis! You're disgusting! They should haunt you for the rest of your life! You disgusting animal! Zionist dog! Yeah, all right.
Hell yeah. You see, seeing somebody say that to her doesn't make me feel uncomfortable. What makes me uncomfortable is seeing, what is it? I think that I can get a shot of it. Yeah. All of these people not calling her out. Not standing up with this man and walking out. Not also yelling at her what a horrible individual she is. The fact that there's so many people that are there to see her and are complicit with it, that's what makes me uncomfortable. Him yelling out all of those things, totally fine. This is a public event. You know, it's not like she has young children with her or anything of that sort. Make her fucking uncomfortable. So next we're going to get into the ban of Jank and Hassan, but before we do that, I do want to just get into the SandBox because I don't want to get too far behind. And yes, Grand Theft Autobot, the word I was looking for, was provoked. The people coming back from the flotilla did nothing to provoke that response from the police. Let's see. So it looks like we've had a bunch more people jump into the SandBox. Okay. I got a 100 from the reference frame. John Ethnic Dropout says beating prisoners is a war crime if the kidnapping wasn't already illegal. Yep, it was international waters. Ugh. I have a fan and it rattles sometimes and it really bugs me. Okay. Grand Theft Autobot, I'm now ashamed to call myself an Earthling. Reference Spray says, nice try, Sandy. Segway is not easy for Anglophones. Most words are not easy for me, regardless of being an Anglophone. Or Trump? Hello, Philip Blair. Why would anyone trust the Israeli government on anything? I don't see Zios as representative of Judaism nor of Christianity. Yeah. Let's see. Reference frame saying calling Basque County, Spain is fighting words over there. Okay, I'll keep that in mind. Hello, MIDI doctors. Welcome to the SandBox. Thank you so much, too, for the $1, or sorry, one gifted membership. Super appreciate it. And you gifted yourself. So, MIDI doctors, thank yourself for the gifted membership. Grand Theft Autobot, for those souls to haunt her, she must actually possess the soul herself. I think there's something that's like the opposite of having a soul. And I don't mean like having no soul. That's like the middle ground. So there's having a soul, having no soul, but then whatever the opposite of that is. Grand Theft Autobot saying, yep, the lack of audience reaction disturbs me too. Hello, Doc Davies. Okay, so let's get into the ban of bans, and Grand Theft Autobot, a Black Soul, Negasoul. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there is a word for it. There should be, just for literary sake. Anyway, let's get into the banning of people. So, Owen Jones. He did a video on this earlier too. A lot of leftist content creators did videos on it and talked about it. Apparently Hassan is going on TYT tonight to talk about it. I do have a hot take about this later on. We'll get through some of this stuff and then I'll give my hot take. So Owen Jones just saying the UK ban on Hassan Piker and Cenk Uygur is deeply disturbing for many reasons. One, another assault on free speech, and specifically pro-Palestinian speech. The assault on pro-Palestinian speech is the biggest assault on free speech in the West since McCarthyism 7 decades ago. So this is also on top of Palestine action being prescribed. So people with signs saying, I oppose genocide, I support Palestine action, being arrested for simply sitting there peacefully. The amount of crackdown on free speech in the UK has been absolutely, like, just so blatant and horrendous. And the way that they're trying to clamp down on protests and stuff. But again, it's just a bellwether for what's going to happen here in Canada, and it already has been happening here in Canada. Because you already have politicians trying to put language laws in effect saying that you're not allowed to criticize the government of Israel. You already have politicians saying you're not allowed to do protests, or you can't do protests like that. You can't burn an effigy of Ben Gvir because that's anti-Semitic. It's not because you're burning the effigy of somebody who's committing genocide, but you somehow he represents all Jewish people suddenly. Canada has repeatedly banned people from coming into this country to speak about the plight of Palestinians. They banned kneecap from coming into the country. A couple weeks ago, I covered a story of some people who were supposed to come into Canada to speak at a conference who were denied entry. It is rampant here in this country to deny access to people who are vocal about what Israel is doing, who are pro-Palestinian. Yet this country seems to have zero problem with allowing white nationalists in. Racist fucks are allowed in. Former IDF soldiers are allowed to come in and do a campus tour. All of that is okay. But if you say the genocide should stop and Israel is wrong for doing it, suddenly you're not allowed in the country. And this particular case is getting a lot of attention. A lot has to do with the profile that Hassan Piker has, more so than Jank. But Jank as well also has a very large online audience and stuff. And so they grab far more attention than, some educators or specialists and stuff that are coming over for a conference, or a rap group, Kneecap, that I'm sorry, I never heard of them from before, but since it happened to them and they have massive platforms online, they were able to really blast it out there that this had happened. And so it's gaining more attention. But this has already been happening a lot. And it's not getting nearly the same amount of attention. People being banned from coming into Canada because of this. Like, I'm already pretty sure I can't travel to the States. I can't travel to the UK. I can't travel to the States because, also very vocal against Donald Trump, Israel, plus the X gender marker on my passport makes it difficult. I seriously doubt I'd be allowed into the UK. Which is a shame. I would love to go across the pond sometime to Ireland and Scotland. It has nothing to do with the absolutely sexy accents. I find them super sexy. But if I were to travel, I'd love to travel over there. But yeah. So there's a bit of a thread from Owen saying, second, the obvious double standard. An Israeli politician who oversaw genocide, here's a red carpet. And you can say anything, however murderous, about Palestinians and freely enter. If you say, I'm glad Israel wiped Gaza from the face of the earth, in you come. After all, Britain has helped Israel wipe Gaza from the face of the earth and slaughter Palestinians. How can you be barred from entering a country for supporting what the British government has done? Thirdly, Britain's continued descent into authoritarianism. The new Labour and Tories already impose anti-terror and anti-protest laws, which stifled out our basic democratic rights. Starmer prescribed Palestine action, arresting thousands for holding placards. I have to say it like that because I find that word adorable. Placards. They're signs, they're posters. If reform forms a government with or without the Tories, what do you think will happen? They will take all the authoritarian laws and precedents and take them into their obvious conclusion. It's obvious where we're heading, and we need to start stating it out loud. And it's happening again. It's happening here in Canada. And the thing is that because it's the Liberal government doing a lot of this stuff, and we'll be talking a bit about them in the next docket, they're getting away with it because people aren't paying attention. If the Conservative government was in power right now doing the exact same thing the Liberal government was doing, there'd be pushback. There'd be people saying this is unreasonable, that this goes against our rights as Canadians, all of this sort of stuff. There'd be backlash and pushback and all of that sort of stuff. But because it's the Liberal government doing it, and the Conservatives like what the Liberal government is doing, nobody is saying dick all about how the Carney government is Americanizing Canada. Super frustrating. But Owen Jones was quote tweeting Hassan, who says, the UK has revoked my visa as well. All at the behest of Israel. The West is betraying liberal values for genocidal fascist foreign government. Soon we will all become Israel. And they were making the point that they weren't being banned for criticizing the UK. They were being banned for criticizing Israel. And Hassan was quote tweeting Jank, who says, I've been banned from the UK. I tried to get on a flight from to London to attend SW London and give a speech at Oxford. I've been banned for criticizing Israel. Are we free anymore? This is oppression of Western citizens by our government on behalf of a different country. And then he did a live video about it. You can go to the Young Turks channel to watch it. He also did a short about it when he was at the airport. He's talking about it tonight on the Young Turks. He's been on about a dozen different other shows talking. Anyway, hot take about this once I get through this, through the meat of this. And so this is from Drop Site News, quote tweeting this clip here. We're not going to be watching the full 37 minutes or any of it. David Dole from the Rational National also did a video on this, and he cut out clips from what Hassan and Jank said, so you can go watch his video afterwards. But Drop Site News says, UK bans Hassan Piker and Cenk Uygur. Prominent political streamer Hassan Piker and Young Turks founder. Sorry, I like that. Prominent political streamer. Oh, and founder of the Young Turks. Not a prominent political streamer, just the founder of the Young Turks, Cenk Uygur, have been barred from the United Kingdom, where they were set to attend South by Southwest Festival in London from June 1 to 6. Yeah, so you have a leftist political commentator, Hassan Piker being banned, and you have Cenk, founder of the Young Turks, being banned. Both said the bans are in direct retaliation for the criticism of Israel. The UK has revoked my visa on behest of Israel, Piker wrote. Yeah, so we cover that. Uygur who was denied boarding a flight to attend SW London and deliver speech at Oxford University, wrote, the suppression of Western citizens by our own government on behalf of a different country. Are we free anymore? Labour MP David Taylor pushed the Home Office to revoke Piker's visa on grounds his presence would not be conducive to the public good. I'm sorry, but all those hooligans that like to go into the country and cause riots and say horrendous things and slurs and stuff, especially towards Palestinians when it's Maccabee or something like that, the Maccabee team, are they conducive to the public good? But they're allowed in. Racists are allowed in to stoke up anger and fear and spread conspiracy theories. There was that rally a couple weeks ago where prominent right-wingers were allowed in to say just the worst racist bile. Owen Jones again did a video on it to mock them because their showing was very I think if you were the person putting on that event, you'd be very disappointed with the turnout. And if you were one of the people who turned out for it, you'd be very disappointed with the quality of show. Let's put it that way. So the MP had previously labeled UN Special Rapporteur Francesca Albanese anti-Semitic for investigating Israeli war crimes in Gaza. Uygur and his nephew, Piker, have been outspoken critics of Israel's genocidal assault on Gaza and the systemic rape, torture, and abuse of Palestinian detainees in Israeli prisons. And so Hassan discusses his revoked visa and being banned from the UK. Do not mince my words, by the way. This is fascism. I don't give a fuck if you widely disagree with Hassan Piker ideologically. Don't simp for Israel. Hassan was banned from the UK because of Israel. And yeah, so there's an almost 40-minute long live stream that people can check out on that. Zach Polanski also spoke out because Hassan Piker was supposed to be speaking with Zach Polanski. I would have loved to see that interaction. And the thing is like they're banning him physically from the UK. But it's not like he can't do these things still. He can still have the talk with Zach Polanski. It would just have to be online. So they're banning his physical presence, but in a way they're also amplifying his message because he can still get his message out there, and now more attention is being brought to it. So this might backfire on them in several ways. But Cenk was also looking forward to being at the set of Piers Morgan because he was going to go on that. And they had all these other things planned on what they would be doing while they were there. They can still technically do them, just not be in studio or in person. And like I said, a lot more attention might now actually be brought onto this because of them being banned. But Zach Polanski says, this is really grim decision alongside Cenk. People often talk about dangerous roads where we'd go down under reform government. This is another clear warning. We're down there already. A Labour government doing everything possible to silence criticism of the Israeli government. And so here we have last year, Hassan Piker spoke at the Oxford Union and highlighted the rise of anti-Semitism, fascism, and dangerous conflation between criticism of Israel and all Jewish people. He was invited to speak again, but pro-Israel group successfully persuaded the UK government to ban him from entering the country. And so this is what he said, that apparently is ban-worthy.
Anti-Semitism is a canary in the coal mine of fascism. It's one of the oldest bigotries that has caused those of the Jewish faith a tremendous amount of pain. From pogroms to the Holocaust, Jews have always been singled out by those in power as a scapegoat for instability and economic volatility people in power cause. A resilient, nascent anti-Semitism is a constant threat, especially as economic instability makes those in power seek out old targets. They're not very creative, usually. They just always rehash the same propaganda over and over again. This is precisely the reason why I am terrified of the conflation of anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. The conflation is dangerous. Valid criticisms against the state, especially as all of the violence is unfolding, and everyone can see it, valid criticisms against the state committing these atrocities and tying it back to Judaism is a cynical ploy to stop all matter of conversation is truly terrifying. And I think it directly causes anti-Semitism to fester.
So him very clearly stating that there's a difference between speaking out against Zionism and being anti-Semitic and being hateful towards Jewish people. Very, very big distinction between the two. But apparently, he could get banned over it. Before we get to my hot take, I just want to say, click on here. So apparently Avi Lewis had a conversation with Mehdi Hassan to talk about the issue, and he says, I think it's really, really clear where Jews of conscience stand on Palestine. Canadian Party leader Avi Lewis explains to Mehdi Hassan why he identifies as anti-Zionist and believes most North American Jews feel similarly. So I have not pre-watched this, as I did very little prep for this live stream because I was super busy. So watch this, and then there's another clip of him speaking, Avi Lewis, and then go back to the main screen. I'll give you my hot take.
Most Jewish people, according to the polls in North America, in the US, in Canada, do consider themselves to be Zionist Jews. Can I just ask how you ended up as an anti-Zionist Jew? Is it something in your childhood, something you read, something you saw? How did you end up at your position?
I think Zionist and anti-Zionist is actually an unhelpful binary. I actually think most Jewish North Americans are on some sort of journey from the propaganda, the pro-Israel myths that we were all brought up on. I grew up in the 1970s. with myths like the most moral army in the world, a country that made the desert bloom, and a version of Israeli history that does not account for the founding dispossession of Palestinians, the Nakba, that was involved, that was required for the founding of Israel. I happen to come, so I've been on a journey myself, Matty, where I've increasingly, through being a keen observer of world events, a journalist on television like you for many, many years, actually debating the Oslo Accords in the 1990s. I was taught by my Palestinian guests on my CBC talk show Counterspin just what a sham and what a bad faith offer that whole Oslo deal was. Not the best deal that had ever been put in front of the Palestinian people, but a program for a Swiss cheese state and an unviable state. So I learned through the unfolding of global affairs how to evaluate fairly and dispassionately the behavior of Israel. But I also come from an anti-Zionist tradition. My great-grandfather, so I'm a fourth-generation democratic socialist, my great-grandfather was an activist in the Jewish Labor Bund in the Pale of Settlement, where millions of Ashkenazi Jews lived in the 19th century and until the Holocaust. There was an anti-Zionist Jewish socialist party, political party, trade union, and cultural movement that Molly Crabapple has written a brilliant book about, the Jewish Labor Bund. And that's the tradition that I come from. My great-grandfather was a leader in the Bund, and my grandfather fled the Bolsheviks because the Red Army came after the soft left after the Russian Revolution. They fled to Canada as refugees from the communists, but they were anti-Zionist Jewish socialists when they came. And that's a long and proud tradition that I come from. We have, my family has wavered back and forth across the line over the decades. But at this point in the genocidal period, I think it's really, really clear where Jews of conscience stand. And I don't believe that the majority of North American Jews make apologies for genocide. I believe that the majority of North American Jews are deeply, deeply disturbed by it.
That's who we could have for Prime Minister here in Canada. Just saying, we've got options now. So this was in their clip of Avi Lewis speaking at a different event. Oh, this is about Cuba and our place in the world on stage to fight free Palestine leadership. Okay, like I said, I haven't pre-watched these yet because I was so busy, but it's not a long clip, so let's give it a go.
Leadership that never backs down. Leadership that shows up in the streets every time, in every struggle. Leadership that brings back internationalism, that fights imperialism, that says Canada that must come to the defense of Cuba and use our place on the world stage to fight for a free Palestine. Leadership that never apologizes for defending the most vulnerable and excoriating the most powerful. That's the kind of leadership that I hope to deliver, and I'm proud to be here on the stage with these incredible leaders. Leadership that...
Yep, that's who we could have for Prime Minister here in Canada if people actually start, paying attention to politics. But I promised you a little bit of a hot take when it comes to Jank in particular. So he did a live stream from the airport, and he seemed genuinely upset. It was a bit of a shock, and I watched like the first minute of TYT, and they were talking about it right out the gate. And I have no doubt that he did feel a little bad that, his right was being taken away, and that he felt a little bit vulnerable, maybe. I also feel like he's in the zone. He kind of likes this because Jank desperately wants to be a victim. Over and over, he keeps on trying to find ways of being the victim. And now he actually was. I don't agree that he should have been banned from the UK. I think he should have been free to go over there and say what he wanted to say, all that sort of stuff. But I think a part of him is loving this attention. He's finally the victim that he wants to be. Because he's been on like a dozen shows already, talking about it, getting himself out there, getting exposure to his channel and his righteous cause and all that sort of stuff. So I think there's more of him that is just like good with this than bad. Because, you know, he could have gone over there. The press attention he got might have been meh, especially with Hassan Piker there, who would have gotten a lot of press attention. But this happened, and he's gotten a lot of attention for it. So my hot take is there's a part of Jank loving this. That's my hot take. Jank is loving being the victim. And he's totally taking advantage of it. And I do agree in this particular circumstance, he is the victim of free speech crackdown. Yep. No, he was like dreaming of something like this. He's now important enough to be banned from a country. That's my hot take. Let's check the SandBox, and then we'll get on to the other dockets. And I'm just realizing I've already been at this for an hour and a half, and I didn't want to spend like 4 hours. I wanted to really wrap things up in about 3 hours, because I have just been burnt the fuck out with all the other work I've been doing. Let's see, how long? So the federal news docket isn't that long, so I'll see where I am after that. I can't do a live stream tomorrow night. I'm busy. But I might do another shorter live stream on Wednesday if I don't get to everything tonight, because I don't like waiting too long between live streams. And this following weekend, it's going to be a bit of a mess too for the same thing. I'll be at a vending market all day Saturday. Sunday, I'm going to be burnt out and kind of recovering. So it'll be Monday when I do the live stream. But YouTube doesn't like it when you take too long and anyway. Go and check the SandBox before we move on. Did I say hi to you yet, Doc Davies? If not, hello, and hello, Edgebox. Oh. Reference frame saying, yeah, this weekend I exploded on a Canadian Liberal Discord server because all those progressives were okay with Carney gutting environmental regulations in favor of AI data centers. No, I can get into it with people who are like, this Carney government, it's so good, because they're not paying any fucking attention to what he's doing. So frustrating. Philip Blair, Tommy Robinson conducive to the public good? Yeah. Grand Theft Autobot, Tarleton Cooker or Alex Jones. I believe Glenn Beck was at that hate rally that happened in the UK a couple weeks ago. And he was allowed over there, not a problem. Edgebox, it truly feels like waking up from the Matrix, yeah. Philip Blair, yep, all of us in settler colonial empire have been swimming in this propaganda for most of our lives. Hello, Looney Tunes. Welcome to the SandBox. I got a 100 from Edgebox, I think, about my hot take. Saying it's a fantastic point. Yeah, totally wrong he got banned, but I think he's loving it. Philip Blair, perhaps we're all banned from a country we've never heard of and a planet in a far-off solar system where we all watched as reality TV. LOL. I seriously doubt. Like, I think I'd be denied entry, but if they look at my history, but it's not like I'm traveling anytime soon. And it's not like I would have a visa and then have it revoked. I would just simply be banned from going in the first place. This fan is really bugging me. It's rattling. It's rattling. Okay, why don't I just quickly scooch into the federal news, because it's not a terribly long docket. And some important things that people need to know about the Carney government and what they're doing. Yeah, I already said hi to you, Looney Tunes. I know you're here. Okay, here we go. More from Dropsite News. Canada's Bill C-18 requires social media platforms to pay news publishers for linking their content. Meta refused and simply blocked all news from Canadian users instead. Dropsite News is among outlets Canadians cannot access on Instagram and Facebook without a VPN. Journalist Samira says the law has backfired badly, and they were quote tweeting Samira, who says, Bill C-18 must be reversed. It is backfired, it is dangerous, and is leaving a massive vacuum by misinformation and disinformation. I shouldn't have to use a VPN to access news on the social media in Canada. Dropsite News. So this didn't technically happen under Mark Carney. Technically, it didn't happen under Mark Carney. This was from before with Justin Trudeau. This show, it's problematic. It is problematic. That Facebook and Instagram, you can't link to actual news articles. You can probably link to my channel. Yeah, you can probably link to my channel, but you can't link to actual news because, you know, and I do understand it to some extent that you should be paying outlets for spreading their content and stuff, and Google is just too damn cheap, or Meta is too damn cheap and doesn't want to do it. But at the same time, it does leave a vacuum, and again, a lot of people in Canada don't pay attention to politics, so they don't actually know this. They don't know that real news sites have been banned because Google refuses to pay. So here, yeah, requires social media platforms to pay news publishers for linking to their content. So I would imagine there's a huge chunk of the Canadian population that does not know this. And so they still go to Facebook and Instagram for their news for whatever reason. And instead of getting CNN, Dropsite News, all that sort of stuff, they're getting just these faux news outlets that are spreading propaganda and misinformation because they can do it because they're not officially news organizations. This needs to be talked about more. More attention needs to be brought to this. And how about, you know what, Meta, just ante up. You got the money. Pay news organizations. Because, you know, a lot of news sites are struggling this day and age. I personally do not like paywalls because I'm broke and I don't want to pay for them. But they should be able to get revenue from these social media companies that make money off of spreading their articles. But here, there's a current bill that Avi Lewis is trying to bring our attention to that we do need to pay attention to because this is going to be very problematic. Right now, a bill called C-22 is moving through Parliament. It would let police pull information on who you talk to, when and where, all without a warrant. It's at committee this week. So, UK cracking down on free speech. Canada upping the surveillance state. C-22 drops the bar for police to reasonable suspicion to the lowest threshold in Canadian criminal law and forces your providers to keep a year of everyone's metadata. Michael Geist calls it a comprehensive surveillance map of virtually every Canadian. Michael Geist also is a fucking Zionist, so take it for what it's worth. Can't even link to the walrus anymore. It even opens the door to handing your data to Trump's America without a Canadian judge. The biggest civil liberties group in the country, from the CCLA to Open Media, calls C-22 the most expansive invasion of our privacy rights in modern history. Protecting kids online is real work, and it is underfunded. Cases of online exploitation are climbing while most go uncharged. The answer is investigators and prosecutors who chase predators, not a year of metadata on 40 million innocent people. We learned that the last time Ottawa tried this in 2012, and that would be probably Bill C5. No, C12. C11, then C12. Jenny Kwan, there's an official petition to withdraw C-22 sponsored by NDP MP Jenny Kwan. More than 2,600 Canadians have signed. Add your name and share while it's still at committee. Here it is. I'm tossing the link into the SandBox. So if you are a Canuck, please fill out this petition. Let's see, how many people are we up to? So over 8,000 signatures so far. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going, because, you know, having all of our information out there, like, what's the worst that could happen? You know, like a data breach where half the population gets doxxed in a province, like what happened in Alberta. If all of this information is saved, it can be hacked and released. So I was talking in previous live streams about Stephen Guilbeault, who was outspoken against the Kearney government for environmental reasons, but he decided to step out of committee but stayed in caucus. Well, I called him a coward, because he was. Still wanted that nice little paycheck, so he's going to retire. A little too late to actually make a change or a difference, because the house is about to sit for the summer. Not sit. Go away for the summer. So there will be no house sittings. House sitter? There will not be nothing voted on over the summer. So Stephen Guilbeault stepping down now changes nothing. Changes nothing. But also there were like 12, 14 other Liberal MPs who were upset with the Kearney government that wanted to stay anonymous, and they're all chicken shit cowards. If all of them actually had any semblance of a spine, and they all said, you know what, we're going to form our own party or citizen independence, the Liberal government would no longer have the majority. And all the shit he's doing could actually be challenged. So Sam Hirsch is just saying, LOL, your massive rollback in environmental regulations is literally the reason he's quitting. So yes, Stephen Guilbeault is quitting. And Mark Carney had something to say about it that I haven't read yet. So let's find out what he said. Damn, he's long-winded. Stephen Guilbeault has devoted his career to protecting our environment and fighting climate change. As he prepares to step down from his seat in Parliament this summer, I want to thank him for his service to the people of Laurier-Sainte-Marie in Canada. This is one of those things like, if he's stepping down because he was protecting the environment and fighting climate change, maybe address that and take that into consideration with the fucking laws that you're passing through that's going to destroy our environment. Stephen's many contributions in civil society and public service have always been guided by his convictions and driven by his pursuit of a stronger, more inclusive, and more sustainable future, all of which I reject because I'm totally fine with him quitting. In government, he has helped establish the, okay, I don't care about this. Champion landmark efforts to protect Canadian culture and identity, including establishing National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. I am grateful for Stephen's leadership and expertise as a cabinet colleague and member of our caucus. Our government shares a commitment to climate ambition. Well, if that was the case, he wouldn't be stepping down. Climate competitiveness and preservation of Canada's extraordinary natural heritage. We are advancing these missions with the same determination, a new spirit of partnership, and renewed focus on results that will support Canadian families today, deliver for our kids and grandkids tomorrow. I wish Stephen and his family all the best as he begins his next chapter. So Mark Carney's just full of a bunch of bullshit because him with his AI centers, as somebody was saying earlier in the Discord, is going to absolutely destroy the environment here. In Kelowna, they want to put in their data center in there. There's already water restrictions. We don't even have clean water service to all First Nation communities, yet we want to start destroying water sources. We have a minister of AI, but no minister of women and inclusion. Yeah. So here's Stephen Guilbeault. If you look at our campaign platform during the last election, commitments that were made, I don't need to read this because I'm fairly certain it is in this clip. So let's see what he has to say about this.
Did you think this would be the case under a government led by Mark Carney? And I ask that, with many people who signed up to run for him identified him as someone who had a particular view on climate change and a focus on it, given his previous work. They have conveyed to us, even Elizabeth May, who had entertained the idea of working with the government on many important files, said to me last night, she thought it was a very different Mark Carney. Like, who is this Mark Carney? Do you share that sentiment? Did you think this would be, a year later, your experience?
So
I don't think Mark Carney actually did a 180 on the environment. He was just never very clear on what he was going to do. But nobody voted for Mark Carney to destroy our fucking environment. Like, nobody did. Nobody voted for AI data centers. Nobody voted for that. If that was on Mark Carney's platform, then we could have Prime Minister Pierre Poilievre right now.
I knew Mark before I knew Prime Minister Carney. We have worked together in the past. If you look at our...
And apparently, Mark Carney and Prime Minister Mark Carney, two different people.
Our campaign platform during the last election, that platform, so commitments that we made to Canadians, mentioned climate change 28 times. It did not mention pipeline once. So I think rightfully so, some people, whether they're Liberal caucus members, whether they're Canadians at large, are wondering what is happening. And I think that's where I respectfully disagree with the approach that the government is taking. I think that the approach that it's taking is that the markets will largely tackle the issue of climate change. And I don't agree with that. I think the markets have a very important role to play. We need to work with financial institutions, with investors, with corporations, and I certainly did that as Environment Minister, but we need a mix of things to be able to both grow the economy and tackle our pollution levels.
Okay. Well, speaking of Pierre Poilievre, this is the Prime Minister we could have had, who is a condescending little bitch, who looks to Donald Trump as a role model, who is just a sniveling little dweeb.
Sorry, Mr. Poilievre, just to jump back to the economy real quick. In Q3 2025, the economy grew at an annualized rate by 2.6%. We have economists saying that today's numbers are so nominal they could be forecasted away and revised away. So aren't you jumping the gun a little bit, calling this a full-blown recession?
Right. So I know that there's a lot of excuses being made for Mark Carney today, and I'm not surprised. By the way, which outlet are you with?
The Hill Times. Is 2.6% economy growth an excuse?
So I'm going to answer, which outlet are you with?
Sorry, Mr. Poilievre, just to jump back to...
Yeah, it's like, I don't want to answer the question. I just want to know, what outlet are you with so that I can condescend and mock you and say that you're fake news and media and stuff. I'm not actually going to answer your question. I'm just going to be like, which outlet are you with? What a whiny little bitch. And this is the prime minister we could have. So this is the prime minister we almost had. This is who we could have. I haven't pre-watched these clips, so let's see what Avi Lewis has to say. Maybe, I don't know, I'll try reaching out to him again. It'd be nice if he actually came on my channel, but, you know, is what it is.
Canada is now living a new chapter of the shock doctrine story.
The shock doctrine, huh? Wonder where he got that terminology from. The shock doctrine. Huh, yeah, okay. I'm also going to speed this up.
It's also known as the political strategy of flooding the zone. The Carney government right now is pursuing an agenda of shocking scale and speed. And as the name suggests, the point of these rapid-fire, massive changes.
And he's getting away with it because he's the fucking liberal government. If the conservative government was pulling the same shit, people would be awake to it. People would be paying attention and people would be saying something. But because it's the liberal government and people have pretty much just closed their eyes and gone to sleep because, oh, we're all okay, it's just the liberals, they're not paying any fucking attention to the fact that he's like a raging conservative. And also because Mark Carney's smart enough to stay away from the social war issues. So he's not talking about gender ideology or anything of that sort. So nobody really knows where he stands on a lot of these issues. And that keeps him off of the radar for a lot of other stuff that he's doing.
Is precisely that, to shock us, to put us in a state of overwhelm where we don't know which fight to take on first, and we get paralyzed as the speed and scope of change washes over us. Let's take quick stock. I'm not going to lean into it because it'd be here for an hour detailing all the changes, but let's just take it quickly. A year ago, the Carney government, with Poilievre's Conservatives' eager support, passed Bill C-5. That law created a major projects process to speed up building big things like the endlessly discussed oil sands pipeline. C-5 aims to get shovels in the ground in 2 years by sweeping aside free, prior, and informed consent by Indigenous communities, as well as environmental and labor regulations. Yeah, it's shameful, but that wasn't fast enough. Last month, we got wind of an even faster process that the Carney government has in the works, one that would give federal cabinet ministers the power to pre-approve any project, and then consultation, assessment, and regulation would all happen at the same time while projects are already being built. Timeline 1 year. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister is musing about privatizing airports and ports, going all in on corporate generative AI, announcing subsidized data centers from Toronto to Vancouver for TELUS, Bell, and other big players, proposing $500 billion of investment in a decade on weapons and war to increase our arms exports by 50%, dismantling every single climate measure in the entire country in order to get Danielle Smith her pipeline. And oh yeah, is doing a review of the Canada Labour Code that could attack the very right to strike in this country.
That's not what Canadians voted for. But to be fair, Canadians voted, were more voting against Pierre Poilievre and for someone who would stand up to Donald Trump, which Mark Carney also did not do. Also, the reference frame wanted this link. Here you go. But also, I would suggest, this is good for the clip if you want the clip. This is most likely on CPAC, the full thing. Just go to CPAC, look for QP conference. It's probably pretty recent, or just go to YouTube to try to find the full thing if you want it. But if you just want the clip, this works. But I don't know if you need a Twitter account to watch it or not. Anyway, got another clip from the same event.
Doug Ford has used this same tactic for years, from the Greenbelt to invoking the notwithstanding a clause against your very own members. Carney prend exemple.
Carney has been inspired by the worst of the worst politicians like Doug Ford, who are in a pocket of big corporations and who are not serving the population, who are using this shock tactic and have been using it for several years.
Use of sneaky tactics and or bald impunity to enrich his business buddies is the thread that connects it all. Doug Ford.
I do like when they call out the shitty premiers, because it's always, it seems more like it's not a cooperative between the provinces and the federal government, that it's more of a contentious relationship as opposed to something that they're supposed to do in conjuncture with each other. So I do like when they actually call out the provinces for the shit that they're doing, because we'll be talking about Doug Ford, and he is just such an asshole. Let's see how much. I'm like tired. I'm burnt out. Let's see. So I do have some provincial stuff that I was going to get to. But like I said, I'm tired. I'm burnt out. I've been busy all day working on items for the vending market. Why don't I do half the provincial docket and save the Doug Ford stuff for Wednesday, as well as I want to talk about some First Nation issues and trans issues, and I'll save that for Wednesday. So before I get to the SandBox, I just want to hammer through this. It's more about Alberta's separation stuff. I just kind of want to get through it, get to the SandBox, and then yeah, I'll do another short live stream on Wednesday. So here we have First Nation chiefs are calling on Alberta's premier to resign, accusing Danielle Smith of conspiring with separatists and violating treaty rights. There's many, many reasons why Alberta cannot separate. Partly because they don't hold the land titles. So let's see what the chief has to say.
And the UCP government do the right thing. Danielle Smith and the UCP government do the right thing and resign immediately. Because from here on in forward, the road is going to get rocky and rough.
Danielle Smith has conspired with the separatists through Bill 14. The premier changed the law after the court told her it was a breach of our treaties to proceed this way.
So Premier Smith and the UCP cabinet, I hope you have your bags packed, because when this referendum is defeated, I will gladly walk you to the border. Danielle Smith.
Yep. The way that she talks about separation and stuff like that, it's like, if you don't want to be a part of Canada so much, just go. Just go. But she'll constantly try to say, oh, I don't want Alberta to separate. I'm just doing everything possible to support the separatists. So APTN News had tweeted this out on the topic of Alberta separatism. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith says her province will turn to the court for clarity on what the duty to consult means. So I've talked about the duty to consult before and the way that the governments use it, as in they use it as just kind of like a checkbox. Like, we already had our minds made up on what we were going to do, but we had the duty to consult. So we did that, but we were still just going to do whatever we wanted to do and not take into consideration anything we heard during the consultation. That's pretty much how this government acts federally and provincially when it comes to First Nations, where it's like, okay, we were told we had to consult. Nothing said that we actually had to listen to them. The tweet says, after her remarks, Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew gave her his definition. I have not watched this, so let's find out what Wab Kinew's definition is for the duty to consult.
I'd like to respond. So I think we know that is not correct. A lot of what you just said there, Premier Smith, specifically, and we spoke about this, so I don't mind repeating this. It is not up to the petition gatherers to fulfill the duty to consult. It is up to you as the Alberta government to fulfill the duty to consult. And in this case, when there's clearly going to be an impact on well-established existing hunting and fishing rights by putting up an international border, if some would have their way, the judge ruled, and I would agree with the judge's ruling, that that is going to infringe on rights. And so there is a duty to consult. Now, to take a step further, for the Albertan who's been frustrated over the lack of progress on pipelines, you've got the Premier of BC announcing LNG. We're working on Churchill. We're working on northern trade.
Don't you Albertans worry, we're going to do pipelines. Yep, the whole environmental thing, forget it. We're totally going to be doing pipelines. Don't worry about it. Don't worry. Got you covered.
Corridors. This is a moment to get big things built in Manitoba. And I would say now is the time to work together. Why don't we hold off on this referendum talk for a year or two and see if we get these pipelines under construction? Because at the end of the day, we want Canada to succeed. We're all very proud of this place. I myself am very, very patriotic. And what I think it's important for us to say when we hear this sorts of discussion happening here in Alberta is for us to say, okay, thank you, First Nations in Alberta, for hitting the pause button on this. Now the rest of Canada, let's work together and show Alberta just how appreciated they are in the rest of this country.
I don't mind a lot of the people in Alberta. The government of Alberta, I don't appreciate. So in response to Bob Canoe's suggestion that Smith delay the separatist referendum, and this is from the breakdown, Smith responded by saying that premiers shouldn't tell other premiers what to do, and then promptly said what she believed other premiers should be doing. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Premier Bob Canoe suggested this past week that you delay the referendum. Wouldn't that just leave the uncertainty hanging over our heads?
Well, I would say that, rather than lecturing Albertans about what they should and should not do and should believe and shouldn't, I would like to see other premiers give, as I am, reasons to feel confident in the Western Partnership and reason to feel confidence in Canada. And I think that the best thing that those premiers could do is work with us on getting pipelines built. I know that
Yes, let's all do the pipelines together. More pipelines. Let's destroy the environment. Who needs the environment? Clean air, clean water. It's like, those are secondary things over profit, aren't they? Aren't they?
Premier Canoe has said that he wants to get a Churchill pipeline built. He's said move a few Alberta barrels. I think that's a really good message. He wants to talk about LNG export, which would also benefit us. And it would also benefit him because if he had new sources of revenue, it would reduce Manitoba's reliance on equalization. They get about $5 billion a year in equalization payments. So these are the ways in which I think the Western premiers should work together. And this is a choice for Albertans. Albertans, in good faith, went out 700,000 people.
Anyway, not from her. So, I think the Prime Minister said something I would agree with. I haven't watched the clip, so I don't know. Because somebody's quote tweeting saying, this person saying, is there some reason why everyone should pretend their plan is not stupid? They are a minority with stupid idea, and it's necessary to say that their illusions are not everyone else's problems. And they were quote tweeting this person saying, uh-oh, the Prime Minister is playing with fire. The last thing Alberta separatists need to hear is the Liberal Prime Minister calling the referendum stupid. It is, and it can't be done for many, many reasons. And this is kind of like, uh-oh, Hillary Clinton said they were a basket of deplorables. So if he does say that this is a stupid idea, I don't want to see him back down the way that Hillary Clinton did. You need to double down, triple down, quadruple down on that shit because it's true.
Yeah, Prime Minister, I'm hoping you can clarify some remarks that you made after the scrum on Monday. When you were leaving the press conference, you spoke with Minister Robertson, and I want to read what you set out. What are you doing? This is stupid. You've got an off-ramp. Take it. That to me sounds like you're talking about Danielle Smith and the Alberta referendum question.
I was talking to Minister Robertson.
But can you clarify what you were discussing in that point in time? Because the scrum was about what the Smith had done.
No, it was about Minister Robertson. Look, I have, I think if I'm going to take your question about the relationship with Canada and Alberta, Canada and the federal government and the provinces, and we practice cooperative federalism. We work together.
Anyway, no, it's not. He didn't just say outright it was stupid, which is kind of disappointing because when he was asked that question by the reporter, he should have said, "That's not what I say, but damn, yeah, it is a stupid idea." That's what I would have liked to have heard. Anyway, he does say this apparently, so Prime Minister Mark Carney says separatist question on a question isn't helpful to the economy, that it wasn't part of the UCP's election platform, joking that Premier Smith doesn't always take his advice. Well, Mark Carney, you're not one to say, you know what, people didn't vote for this. Because a lot of the shit you're doing, people didn't vote for.
It's, I mean, the Premier has proposed this, the question and other questions with it. As I said earlier, Tom, we will look at, we will discharge our responsibilities, look at consistency of the question about a question, if I can put it that way, on separation, our consistency of that with the Clarity Act. So it is what it is. It's there. We have to discharge our responsibilities. As I said, look, the Premier doesn't always take my advice. Can I finish my, please? Look, is it helpful to ask these fundamental questions? No, it's not helpful. Of course it's not. Is it the democratic will of Albertans? Did they vote for this in the last provincial election? No, they didn't. It wasn't on the ballot paper.
Well, there's lots of things that weren't on the ballot for us. Federally. Huh? Mark Carney, this is, you see, the playing with fire isn't potentially calling the referendum stupid. It's calling Danielle Smith out for doing things that weren't on the ballot. I'd say that's far more lit with fire.
In the mandates of or platforms of any of or of the governing party and the official opposition. It is what it is. It's I'll repeat that.
It is what it is.
You know, the core approach here and reality is positive. There's tremendous strengths that Canada brings to Alberta and Alberta brings to Canada. We are absolutely stronger together. We're better together. We're better people. We're wealthier together. You know, my colleague Corey Hogan points out rightly that median wealth in Canada is 23% higher than the United States. It's not something people would think, but why is that the case?
I've heard enough of that. Again, this is the Prime Minister we could have, Avi Lewis. Also speaking about the separatist movement. Let's see what Avi Lewis has to say about it, other than it is what it is.
The separation movement in Alberta has no point of comparison with the historic sovereignty movement in Quebec. This is a MAGA-aligned, potentially funded, disruptive movement that has been really thrown into national prominence by Danielle Smith addressing this question that a portion of her base, a small minority of Albertans, the vast majority of whom want to stay in Canada, don't want to have a referendum that will rip the country apart. So that it's not the same thing. The separation movement in Alberta.
It's a better response, but call it stupid. Please. Oh, I just realized that I'm probably not going to do this space on Wednesday because I'm too burnt out trying to get ready for the market that I'm in on Saturday. So how long is this doc? I'm just checking to see how long this might take me. You know what? I think as much as I'm burnt out and kind of want to quit now, I think I'm better off just hammering through it so I don't have to worry about doing it Wednesday, because I probably won't do this space on Wednesday because, like I said, I'm kind of burnt out and I need to focus on getting ready for my market. So I'd rather just kind of get this all dealt with. Okay, we'll talk about Doug Ford. So Doug Ford is very upset about a recent court decision that I've covered on this channel about how a judge has said, you know what, these encampment people who are on this regional land have a right to stay there. I talked about it. The judge actually referred to them as humans, that they are a vulnerable group, that what they are dealing with are a mutable situation because a lot of what's happening to them is out of their control and therefore they cannot be discriminated against. So they can't be forced off this land unless there's somewhere else that is acceptable for them to go to. totally reasonable judgment. Like, this judge should actually be commended for actually thinking of them as human. So you know what Doug Ford does? He's like, I don't like it. And it's ridiculous. I'm going to call it out. I'm going to have a temper tantrum. All right. Section 33 is still a thing, isn't it? I can overrule this judge if I want to. So Doug Ford had tweeted this out, saying this court decision is standing in the way of public safety and it's blocking new transit that Kitchener and Ontario need. So do you know what's unsafe for unhoused people is to just kind of kick them off this one little nugget of land that they have and force them, you know, into more obscurity. You know, forcing them further away from the little support networks and community that they've made. That doesn't help them. It's a ridiculous decision that needs to be overturned. And this person pointing out, Dear Doug, in Niagara, 97% of homeless population receive government financial assistance. You remove rent control. Your only housing plan is bailing out $1 million condos. And have you seen what your boy Weston is charging for groceries? You are the problem. There has been an absolute explosion of homelessness in Ontario. It's this fucker's fault. And since the judge has said, do you know what? These people should be treated as a vulnerable group with rights and stuff like that. Doug Ford is like, fuck you, judge. I don't like it. We should keep on dehumanizing these people and forcing them to suffer. So from CBC News, stay tuned. Ford considers notwithstanding clause to clear Kitchener encampment. So I don't like this judge's ruling that these people have human rights. I want to override that. Section 33, the notwithstanding clause, needs to fucking go. It shouldn't be in our Constitution. It needs to go. I want to hear Abby Lewis say that. So Judge Rural Region could move residents if they provided an alternative site or tenting protocol. So here it is, like the judge is saying, no, you can move them if you give them a decent alternative. And Doug Ford's reaction, no, notwithstanding clause. Let's kick them out without them having anywhere to go. Ontario Premier Doug Ford said he would consider using a notwithstanding clause to clear an encampment in downtown Kitchener. The comments follow a decision last week by Ontario Superior Court judge that prevents the region of Waterloo from moving residents off the property where the encampment is located. The region has argued it needs the lot as a staging site for construction of a major transit hub project. During a news conference in Toronto on Monday, Ford said his government is ready to intervene. He does that a lot, doesn't he? Another crazy decision by the courts. We're going to deal with it. Hopefully, the region is going to appeal it. We'll intervene and stay tuned because that's the reason they have Section 33 of the notwithstanding clause. No, that's not the reason they have it. The reason we have it is Quebec. That's the reason why we have Section 33. It's not there for you to have a hissy fit because you don't like the way a ruling went. It's not there for you to force your agenda onto other people. That's not what it's there for. I've talked about what it is. So on Monday, Ford did not commit to using the notwithstanding clause, but instead said, let's go through the proper process. I'm going to give the courts another shot here. He said, hopefully the region is going to appeal. We'll be right there with them. But if the courts don't rule in the way that I like, notwithstanding clause. Just going to toss this into the SandBox so you can finish reading the article if you like. But I talked about this ruling in an earlier live stream. And someday, you know, that might actually mean something as opposed to go back to one of my 5-hour-long live streams and look for it. Because when I get back to clipping segments, it'll be much easier to be like, I clipped that segment so you can go back and watch it. As soon as all these vending markets are over and I get the fucking TYT essays done, I'll be clipping the hell out of these live streams. Me and Jet, right, Jet? So Doug Ford tweeted this out. Shovels are in the ground to build a new Ontario Science Centre, a cornerstone of the reimagined year-round Ontario place. You know, the luxury Bah. This new world-class facility will have more space for programming than ever before, upgrading Ontario Place's famous pods and Cinesphere and supporting over 1,000 good-paying jobs, tourism, and construction. And T-Dot resident just pointing out, the current price tag for this new, smaller science center is over $1 billion and will surely go up. As a reminder, the previous science center just needed 24 to 32 million in critical repairs and approximately 200 million over the next couple of decades in normal maintenance. A landmark, a tourist destination, a place where family could build memories. Gone. For a fraction of the price of his vanity project. And you know, a lot of this money is just going to foreign corporations, investors that Doug Ford is buddies with. So province breaks ground on 400 million plus science center at Ontario Place set to open in 2029.
Premier down on the waterfront this morning. It's only been a couple of months since he first awarded the $1 billion contract to design and build the brand new Ontario Science Centre. And we first saw the images of the new 400,000 square foot facility this morning. Premier Ford and company down on the waterfront to break ground on the facility to start.
The new state-of-the-art, fully accessible Science Centre, which is on track to open in 2029, will inspire the next generation of children and families with new and exciting programming in modern, light-filled spaces, including the iconic Cinesphere and pods, with more programming space than at the previous site, and breathtaking views of Toronto's beautiful.
Anyway, I don't believe any of the bullshit that he's saying. I'll toss this into the SandBox. There you go. You can finish watching this video if you are a masochist and want to hear Doug Ford's voice. So here we have Mike Schreiner, leader of the Ontario Green Party, who says the whole Billy Bishop expansion is being driven by an American bank that won't even disclose its role in the lobbying campaign. Doug Ford is destroying Toronto's waterfront to help out American bankers at our expense. There's so much fucking corruption in this government, like just so much unbelievable fucking corruption. There needs to be accountability here. Like the idea that he's taking over, he's forcing his will, taking over this airport because of an American bank. There's so much corruption, him hiding his phone records, him changing the Freedom of Information law so that he can hide his corruption. He needs to be investigated. All of this needs to come out. People need to know just how bad he is, because I think we're only scratching the surface with the things we have found out.
We're going to see Billy Bishop and the Toronto waterfront destroyed. Because I travel around the province, people tell me they're outraged by this government's obsession with wasting money on things in Toronto that people in Toronto don't even want. And now the expropriation of Toronto Islands and expansion of the island airport. And partly they're outraged because they look at their communities and they see people struggling. But to now have the Premier say no to 30,000 homes on Toronto's waterfront so we can land a luxury project.
Yeah, you can see me, I'm reaching the end of the line where it's like, I'm just going to speed up every fucking video I can.
Private jet at Billy Bishop Airport makes absolutely no sense.
Oh, and I see this is like totally reading out. It doesn't sound much louder to me, but it looks like it's a lot louder to you guys. So I'll turn that down.
We need to build homes, Speaker, not expand airport runways. And so we've also learned that the company that runs the island airport is owned by JP Morgan, one of the largest banks in the world. So let's be clear, Billy Bishop Airport's losing money. So when Newport Aviation bought Billy Bishop back in 2015, they paid $750 million for it. 2 years later, they sued Porter because Porter wasn't generating enough business for them to make a profit. And now the Premier wants to bail out the bankers. It's a joke. They're basically trying to say, even though 95% of air travelers in Toronto fly out of Pearson, that somehow increasing the size of the airport is going to lead to an economic contribution half of what Pearson makes. Like, that makes just absolutely no sense. Who does these kinds of numbers? I don't know. I'm a number.
That's Doug Ford math for you.
Numbers guy. These numbers make no sense, but I tell you what's not a joke is the damage that this is going to do on the waterfront. Expanding the island airport would damage local businesses operating on the waterfront. It would make the water not navigable because of all the disruptions from jet engines. Actually, it's going to put birds at risk because it's in a migratory flight path, all to bail out bankers. It makes no sense for the Premier to be working for American bankers and not working to build homes that people in Ontario can afford.
Well, it makes sense to Doug Ford because of his agenda of enriching corporations and his buddies. Then it makes a lot of sense. But if it comes to what's best interest of the people, then no, it wouldn't make any sense. So here we have Tina Yazdani saying thousands of protesters accused the Ford government of privatizing public hospitals at a rally at Queen's Park on Thursday. Given the government's significant investment in private clinics, I asked Health Minister if Ontario is now operating a two-tier healthcare system. So Tina Yazdani no longer works for City TV. I suspect, I don't know for sure, that Doug Ford had something to do with that. But she now works for the Trillium, and in a way, it has freed her to be even more of a badass reporter. And I also wanted to show this just to remind people that just because we don't hear about it doesn't mean that there aren't people pushing back. The mainstream media doesn't tend to actually cover, in the next two tabs I have here, the protests that are happening, the rallies, the people speaking out, the shutdowns that are happening, the roads being closed, all of that sort of stuff. The mainstream media doesn't show it, but it's happening. If you want to find out, you need to tap into your local community, health coalitions and things of that sort, to find out when rallies are happening so that if you want to, you can participate in them as well. But just because we don't see anything happening in the media doesn't mean it's not. It's just, they don't want to actually promote the fact that there are people pushing back because it might encourage other people to speak out.
An estimated 5,000 people were at Queen's Park today to protest what they call the privatization of Ontario's healthcare system. They say the Ford government has been funneling tens of millions of dollars away from public hospitals and into private clinics. Is there anything specific you would want to see the government change?
A commitment to a publicly funded system that meets the needs of our communities.
What kind of things are you experiencing in your work?
Definitely staffing shortages, burnout are the two biggest ones.
I did have a chance today to ask the health minister about some of the accusations made during this protest. Here's what she had to say. I know that the government does make significant investments in the public system, but
Sorry, I can't make this any louder, and this one seems really quiet.
given the significant investments also in the private system and private clinics, are you willing to admit that your government is working towards a two-tier system at this point?
Absolutely not. It has never been an either-or conversation, which frankly I think some organizations try to make it so. When we make the investments in both our hospital system and in our community, we're actually making more choices available to the patients.
Isn't that the very definition of a two-tier system, though? Can you explain the differences to me then?
Absolutely.
All of these ministers are probably so fucking mad that Tina got a job with the Trillium, and she's still there getting under their skin asking these questions.
Means that that individual with an OHIP card can make a choice about whether that MRI, that CT scan that they need and their physician or primary care provider has requested, they make a choice about where they want to have that. Could be in their community hospital, particularly as we expand MRI and CT access, and yes, it can be in a community facility that might be more convenient and closer to home.
And will charge you because it's private. Huh. Kind of sounds like it's a two-tiered system.
They're transferring now hundreds of millions away from the public hospitals, which they pushed into deficit and forced into cuts, over to private for-profit clinics that they're expanding to take over their services, take their staff and their services and their money.
But just a little bit more on the protests that were happening. So Sherry here just says it's the single greatest difference between the US and Canada. You only need an OHIP card, not a credit card, when you need medical care. An American friend who became Canadian said he was so pleasantly shocked that there was no cost for his wife having a high-risk birth. Oh, and then having a long paid for maternity leave. So this is the big protest in downtown Toronto. Image here. Again, people aren't aware this is happening. If you want to get involved, get involved. It's good to be around other people who are fighting back. If you feel, you know, a little, apathetic about the world, get involved with this. Get involved with the protests. Get involved with the rallies. Be around other people. It can really help to energize you and to know that you're not fighting this alone. But it's also in Alberta where you're seeing these protests. So this site tweeted out, scene from large protests in downtown Edmonton today as demonstrators march along Jasper Avenue opposing policies of Danielle Smith and United Conservative Party.
All right, I'm so excited to welcome the next leader. She's a strong Alberta.
So as far as I'm concerned, this is only a start. We need a general strike. We need to shut the city down. We need to shut the economy down. We need to force their hand. Because these protests, they're good. They help you network and feel like you're doing something. But we need to make the government feel pain. And the way to do that is a general strike. Anyway, I probably can't play that because of the music. Main shot. Close these. And then I have one more docket. Heavy docket. I'm just seeing how much I'm burnt. And this is heavy. I'll tell you what, I'll see how I'm feeling on Wednesday. I won't be doing this space on Wednesday. That's during the day when I'm going to be most productive, but in the evening I might be able to squirrel away an hour and a half to do this docket. I'm going to be talking about some First Nation and trans issues and the ongoing genocides against them. But I'm a little burnt. I've just been so busy with these vending markets. And right after this stream, I have to get back to work on these things. So I'm making these right now. So that's the lesbian flag. That's the gay man flag. Put onto some maple leaf ornaments that I found. These are all hand painted that I'm doing. Trying to get them done. I have a bunch of bisexual ones that I need to finish today. I'm super stressed about it because it's a big event that I'm going to. And I'm not sure I'm going to have the help I need. Oh boy. So yeah. I'll let Nathaniel know that I'm not going to be at this space on Wednesday, but I might be doing a short live stream in the evening to cover off these important stories. But yeah, I still need to have dinner, clean the litter bins. Like, I still have so much to do. So I think I'll call it a wrap for the live stream. That, as Looney Tunes will point out, I'm about to say. Let's check the SandBox. Philip Blair, this is a win for police who want to stalk their next ex. Yes, talking about Bill C-22. Yeah, because that is a problem. 3 stories from Ottawa of 3 different police officers doing that sort of thing. Using their power to stalk women or exes and stuff. Reference frame is signing the petition. Everyone please do go sign the petition if you can. I'll be signing it after stream as I don't want to sign it on stream because then you'll see my personal information that I really don't want out there. Philip Blair, they should hop over to the NDP perhaps, referring to the 14, I believe, Liberal MPs who signed a letter with displeasure about Mark Carney. They can't. NDP does not accept floor crossers, so they can't cross the floor to the NDP unless Avi Lewis decides to really revamp what the party does. But I think that's something that would have to be voted on at convention. So as of the moment, they cannot just simply cross the floor to the NDP. Grand Theft Autobot and Doug fucking Ford wrote the same anti-Trump popularity. Fuck Ford, yeah. Philip Blair, why can't clean water be moved through pipelines to people who need clean water? That has been brought up before. Philip Blair, I've been voting for universal health care down here in the United States since 2004 when John Kerry put John Edwards on the ballot as his VP running mate. Edwards was running on universal health care. Yeah. If people were paying attention to politics, there's absolutely no way they'd be okay with what's happening in this country. Let's see. And Jet saying that they will absolutely still help me with the clipping. I'll get back to it. It will probably help my channel to get back to it, but I don't have the spoons to do it right now until the TYT essay is done. But first I need to really focus on the vending markets because there's a timeline on that. And then once the vending markets are done, and not all the vending markets because I have one this weekend and one the following weekend. The one the following weekend, I'm not going to be making any new product for. It's much smaller. It's more of a fun, relaxed environment. So I'm not going to be doing anything extra for that. So I don't have to do the same amount of work that I'm doing leading up to this one. So starting next week, I should be able to start getting back to the TYT essay. Because the sooner I get that done, the better. And then I can focus on clipping and my other channel and all that sort of stuff. Grand Theft Autobot. Oh, well, Doug Ford was anti-Trump. He was also going forward with purchasing Elon's Starlink internet service. Integrity is a dirty word to Doug fucking Ford. He gave up on that luxury jet, didn't he? Or is he getting another luxury jet in the sly? There's still a lot of, I was thinking about putting in some stuff about that, but without the freedom of information stuff, I don't think we'll ever get to the bottom of it. There could still be the province paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to reverse his plan on it and whatnot, and yeah. Hello. Name I really cannot pronounce. And I would almost feel like it's rude for me to try to pronounce that. Sorry. Because I feel like whatever comes out of my mouth would just be really, really bad. But they say bonjour, howdy, hello. Oh, there's some translation stuff going in here if I hover over, apparently. Slightly worried, don't know why. There's lots of things left to do in the future. Oh, welcome to the sandbox. They also say dogwoods about to bloom a lot, while gooseberries, or mostly, say by regional ENG, the bale, because I'm used to calling it like that. They're all about to roll is season, like after 30D, so 1 month away. Dogwood blooms and gooseberries. Nice. I'm going to be happy to be getting 5 bushes of gooseberries. Their yields less, so going to need a lot of them. I think I've tried a gooseberry. The Wild West, Sandy inspired me, and I painted some pride flag earrings shaped like maple leaves. Oh, nice. Oh, that person also had a very big question for a long time, for a very long time to Canadians. Well, you can ask in the comments section. But I don't have the energy I need right now to answer a very big question. I've been burnt out getting ready for Pride Month and stuff with painting these. So these are all hand painted. So this is the pride flag put onto the maple leaf. This is the intersex flag. Got the non-binary one here. Then we have the pansexual. Oops. And I also have to hand tie all of these strings onto them. Trans, asexual. Oh, and I still have a whole bunch more to do. I have the bisexual I'm working on right now. I just need to do the middle strip of that, so it shouldn't take me too long to finish off tonight. But then I'm going to be doing a whole bunch of ones that are basically just red, so they'll be fairly easy. And then I'm using an acrylic marker to put pronouns onto them. So there'll be 10 he, hims, 10 she, hers, 10 they, thems, 10 she, they, 10 he, they. And I'll keep a few blanks. So basically I'd be charging $5 for one of those, but $10 if you want to have your name on. But I'll have some blank red ones so that if somebody has a different pronoun, I'll put that pronoun on there for no extra charge. But yeah, I will not be doing this space this week, but I might be doing a shorter stream in the evening to talk about some First Nation issues and trans issues that don't get talked about enough. Right, let's see if there's anyone streaming right now that we can go raid. But I'll do this as well. I don't think anyone's live right now. No, this space would be live. Actually, if I go here, it usually does a better job of telling me. Customization. Redirect. Add. Oh, there's lots of channels. Sort of. Upcoming is Looney Tunes. But I think that's a while from now. I'll redirect to this space. Okay. Okay, so we'll be redirecting to this space. Hassan is... Wild West. I have plenty of blanks. If you want an ace one, I can make them. It's just they're a bit tricky to ship because they're wood. They're thin wood. So I can make sure it's just the amount of money you'd be paying for it at the end is, if you think it's worth it, I can ship it. But I'd recommend getting something else as opposed to just leaf, like another one of the flag paintings I've been doing or something. Just to make it a little bit more worth it, not to upsell. who's going to be the next Canadian who I'm going to talk to. Or not talk to. If you're looking for Canadian political channels, you also have Lance from the Serfs, or the Serfs on YouTube. And he's Métis, so you can get that perspective on things. Also, Rational National, David Dole, he does a lot of stuff. Rachel Gilmore, she's an investigative journalist. She does a lot of stuff on YouTube. But yeah. I don't know if I can raid Hassan Piker, but or he would care if I do. But yeah, so Wednesday I won't be doing this space. I might be doing a short live stream in the evening. My next news live stream will be Monday evening. Sunday I'm just going to be completely knocked over. So I think with all of that, you know, do all the socials, buy my book. This is the reward. At the end of everything, at the end of my TYT essay, this is my reward. I get to go back to this world, and I can't fucking wait to get back into that. So I think with all of that, thank you everyone for coming out. Thank you mods. Thank you everyone who's helped out financially. I super appreciate it. I wouldn't be able to do this without you. With all of that, salut, à la prochaine. Thank you for watching and stay tuned. I'm Sandy. Wishing your tomorrow is better than your today.